Hi everybody and welcome to Rocco Baby Crochet. I hope you're all well and having a great week. A massive warm welcome back to all my regular viewers and subscribers. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and a huge warm welcome to anybody who may have just found the channel for the first time. I hope you find this tutorial helpful. Stick around and consider subscribing so that you don't miss out on my next free pattern or stitch tutorial, and it also is a free way that you can support the channel as well. So today's quick stitch tutorial, we are going to be learning the beautiful herringbone stitch. Now this is an absolutely gorgeous stitch. It looks lovely. This is the way we make it in rows. I kind of prefer it when we turn it round that way and use it lengthwise instead. I make a lot of hats using this method. It's a very dense fabric that it creates. The pattern is only on one side, so the back side of it is flat and then your pattern is on the right side here. So it's fairly easy to work. It's a 2-row repeat, and this video is all time stamped for you, so if you want a little recap on any row in particular, then make the most of those time stamps. Please don't forget I use UK terminology, so I'll be popping the US abbreviations as we go through the video that you need to know. So all you'll need for this tutorial is your chosen yarn and the recommended hook for that yarn. So grab your hooks, grab your yarn, grab a cuppa, and let's learn this beautiful stitch together. So to begin, you want to make your slip knot in your preferred method and pop that onto your hook. The foundation chain that you need to make to create this stitch can be as many as you like. There isn't any specific multiple at all. You're just going to yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through, and keep going until you have enough chains for the width of your project. I'm just going to do a really small sample here just to show you the stitch. If you want to press pause and come back to me when you are ready to move up to row 1, and we can do that together. So I've just completed my foundation chain. I've just chained 20 to show you a small sample. Once you've got your chain to the width that you want your project, you're going to add one more chain on, and that's just a turning chain. It's not going to count as a stitch. And then in the second chain from the hook is where we're going to place our first stitch. So you can go in from the front or use the back bumps, which I prefer to use, counting down these V's, each V being a chain, and you'll insert your hook into the second chain from hook. I'm going to turn mine over and go into the back bumps. There's my first chain and there's my second. And into this second chain, we're just going to place a double crochet. Next, what we want to do is we're going to, when you look at your double crochet and you pop it so it's straight, you should notice that you've got the top of your stitch here, which is the 2 V's, which we're used to working into and working under to create a stitch. And then underneath it, you've got 2 posts. You've got your left post, which is the one that's closest to my hook, and then you've got your right post. Obviously, if you're left-handed, this is going to be the opposite way round. So where we're going to be placing our hook is we're going to be going underneath this post here and then into our next chain. And we'll do that all the way across. So insert underneath that post that's furthest away from the hook and then into the chain. Next chain along, yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook at this point, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And we're just going to do that all the way across. So you're always popping your hook underneath the post which is furthest away from your hook before you go into your next chain. So in underneath that post and then into my next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. Now you don't want to do these overly tight, you want to keep your tension nice and relaxed. So underneath the post furthest away from my hook and then into my next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So we'll keep doing that all the way across until you reach your end. So underneath the post furthest away from the hook, into my next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Underneath the post furthest away from my hook, into my next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So if you'd like to work your way along, repeating that all the way across for row 1, and then come back to me when you're ready to move up to row 2. I've just reached my very last chain of row 1, and I'm just going to place my last stitch into that last chain, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So at the end of row 1 you should be looking a little bit like this. To move up to row 2, and this is our second part of our row repeat, you are going to chain 1 and turn your work. So for row 2 we're going to be working from back to front. So normally we would insert our hook underneath the top of the stitch from front to back, but for this it's a bit like a reverse stitch. We're going from back to front with our hook. So I find it a little bit easier if I keep my yarn a little bit more pulled towards me, and if I just rotate my work towards me a little bit, it becomes a bit easier. The chain 1 that we did is again just a turning chain and doesn't count as a stitch. We're going to be placing a double crochet in this first stitch here, inserting our hook from back to front, then yarning over and pulling up a loop, and you'll have 2 loops on your hook at this point, yarn over and then pull through both of those loops. So when you're working even numbered rows, you're going to have the wrong side of the work facing you. Now this is a pattern that is a one-sided pattern, so we need to turn it towards us again, and we're going to be working underneath again this post here of the double crochet, which is furthest away from our hook, but again we're going to be going in through it from the right side of our work. So we've picked up that post, and then we're going to insert our hook from front to back underneath the next stitch along. You'll then yarn over and pull up a loop, and you'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So let's do that a couple more times. So turn your work slightly so that your right side is facing you. Let's look at these posts. So you've got 1, 2, 3 posts from that stitch. This is the top of your stitch, here are your 2 posts. And it's this post here that's furthest away where we're going to be inserting our hook under. And then we'll be inserting our hook under the next stitch along from front to back, yarning over and pulling up a loop, yarning over, pulling through all 3 loops. Let's do this a couple more times. Insert your hook underneath the post furthest away from you from your last stitch, and then into the top of your next stitch along from back to front, yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Turn your work towards you slightly again, insert your hook underneath the post that's furthest away, and then underneath into your next stitch from back to front, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. Underneath the post furthest away, into the next stitch from back to front, yarn over, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So you're just going to repeat that all the way across. If you want to press pause and come back to me when you're ready to move up to your next row. And the more that you do this, the easier that it gets. It's just a little bit, if you're new to this stitch, it's just a little bit different to how we normally work things. And once you've got a couple of stitches on there, it's much easier to handle your project as well. I think the first couple of stitches of row 2 are probably the most difficult, and then once you've got a couple on there, then you'll be flying. So come back to me when you reach the end of your row. We'll just run through how we move up to the next row and have a little stitch recap. So I'll see you in a second. So I've reached my last stitch of row 2. So I'm just going to finish it off doing exactly the same as I've done all the way along and place my last stitch into there. And then to move up to my next row, I'm just going to chain 1 and turn my work. And you should be able to see now that the beautiful herringbone stitch has started to form and you've got your braid looking stitch running across. We're just going to repeat rows 1 and 2 over and over until your project reaches the height. So I'll repeat row 1 next, and I'll start with that double crochet, just a standard double crochet, and then I'll start my next stitch by picking up that post of the stitch which is furthest away from my hook, and then going into my next stitch. So I've got my 3 loops on there, yarning over, pulling through them all. So you'll do that all the way across. Then when you get to the end of row 1, chain 1, and then you'll be repeating the reverse row, so row 2. So this video is all time stamped for you, so please make the most of them if you need a little recap on either of the rows. But I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful. Take care, and I'll see you real soon. Bye!